Now, I had a subscriber that DM'd me on Instagram, and he asked me the question of if I believe that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be able to dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs for the AFC this year. Now, I'm going to put the question on the screen for you guys to see. His name is Sean_Taylor9. He says, hey, JT, do you think that the Bengals will beat the Chiefs this year in the AFC Championship and win the Super Bowl? I don't know, man. Like, you boys know I love me some Joe Burrow. I really do. I do believe that Cincinnati is capable of being able to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to say that. I'm not going to make any predictions right now, but I do think that they are capable. Last season, they came damn near close to being able to beat Kansas City despite having a terrible offensive line. And even then, the year before that, they beat Kansas City on the road in Arrowhead and went to play the Rams in the Super Bowl, which they eventually would end up losing that game. But this year, though, I definitely think that this is the best chance that Cincinnati has at winning the Super Bowl, simply for the fact that I think that they finally have found the answer to their offensive line issues. They went out and they got Orlando Brown. We don't know what's going to happen with Jonah Williams. They're probably going to try to kick him out the right tackle. That's what the reports are saying. And I think that the interior of their offensive line should be really good. So I think with Joe Burrow finally having what should be a top 10 offensive line this year, Cincinnati has the formula to be able to go on the road to Arrowhead and knock off Kansas City. Kansas City's offensive line is a little bit of a concern. They paid a lot of money to a guy from Jacksonville that was, I think Jawan Taylor was okay. I think it was pretty good. But for the most part, he's kind of a little bit inconsistent at times. I think they severely overpaid him. And then they're going to be having Donovan Smith starting at left tackle. Now, we're going to be able to see if Andy Reid can work some of his magic and get Donovan Smith playing at a good level. But their offensive line is kind of a little bit shaky this year. When you look at their tackle situations, they are really good on the interior. So you look at Cincinnati, man, their offensive line, I think it's finally going to be solved when it comes to problems that they've had in the postseason. And you already know about how good their defense always plays against Patrick Mahomes with Lou Anarumo as their defensive coordinator. Travis Kelce, Mahomes, they always give a lot of praise to Lou Anarumo and how his defense performs against them. My only question for Cincinnati is going to be how's that secondary going to do? They're going to have some new players, some new names in that secondary. You lost Jesse Bates. You lost Eli Apple, who, although many people view him as being garbage, this dude was pretty solid at times. Not great, but solid at times. So you could always do worse than a guy like Eli Apple. And Kansas City, I think their defense is going to be pretty good this year. So for the Cincinnati Bengals, this is probably your best shot at winning a Super Bowl. But who knows if it's really going to come down to Cincinnati and Kansas City. It could be Cincinnati and New York. Could be Cincinnati and Buffalo. It could be Cincinnati and Miami. Or maybe we see Cincinnati and the Baltimore Ravens square off in the AFC Championship game. But to answer your question, I do think that Cincinnati can beat Kansas City. And I do think that they are more than capable of being able to win the Super Bowl. I think that this is their best shot at winning the Super Bowl since ever, really. I mean, this is the most talented team that they've had on the offensive side of football. We know about what their receivers do. You know what you're going to get out of Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins. You know what Joe Burrow does. This dude, without a doubt, is the second best QB in the game, and it's not even close. So I do think that the Cincinnati Bengals are capable of being able to beat the Kansas City Chiefs for the AFC. I'm not going to say that they will, because a lot of things can happen. And to be honest with you, I'm just not ready to lock in that prediction yet, because there are a lot more teams that I like in the AFC this year, like the Jets and the Ravens. So I do think, to answer your question, the Bengals are capable of being able to win the Super Bowl this year. They have a great team. They have improved the offensive line. They improved the offensive line last year. We thought the offensive line was going to be better with all the money that they spent, and they still weren't able to find the solution. So what did they do? They went right back to the drawing board, and they continued to try to address the offensive line again. So I think this year is the best chance the Bengals have at winning a Super Bowl. And when you think about how they went to the Super Bowl in year 2 when they had Joe Burrow at QB, Nobody expected them to make it that far. Nobody expected Cincinnati before the season to be in a damn Super Bowl. So for Cincinnati, this is a team that legitimately is talented enough to get to the Super Bowl and win it all, depending on who they play. It just depends on if that secondary is going to be able to hold up with the new names that they have. But I trust Lou Anarumo. He was getting a lot of head coaching interviews. He plays Kansas City really tough. The defenses that Cincinnati puts on the field are normally pretty good under Lou Anarumo. And this is somebody who most likely is going to end up being a head coach at the end of next season. I think that it benefits Cincinnati having both of their coordinators coming back after flirting with head coaching jobs. So that's going to be a plus as well. So I do think that the Cincinnati Bengals can beat Kansas City, and they are capable of being able to win the Super Bowl, but I'm not going to lock them in as my pick to win it all this year. But I think that this is the best chance that Cincinnati has at winning the big dance.